Hello and welcome to Timeless with Julie Hartman Live. It is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. I'm Julie Hartman. It is great, as always, to be with you. You know, I very rarely publicize my social media at the beginning of the episode. This is probably something that I should make a habit of doing. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Julie R. Hartman, and really the best way to reach me is julie@julie-hartman.com. One of the best parts of this job is hearing from listeners, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Actually, a lot of it is really, really good. Occasionally you get the troll email, but please do email me at julie@julie-hartman.com. I can't promise that I can always respond, but I can promise that I do read almost everything that people write into me. Hello, Sean McConnell. Great to be with you, my friend. AKA
Hi, Jules.
Misinformation. 844-861-5537. 844-861-5537 is the call-in number. Yes.
Wait, I wasn't done.
Oh, you weren't? Yeah, I kind of zoomed through you. I'm sorry. Let's do that one more time. Hello, Sean McConnell.
Hi, Jules.
I'm gonna pause.
You should hold that glorious book up for a second.
What glory? Oh, Elevator Pitches for God. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I did last night?
What'd you do,
Sean? I
Sean?
went on Amazon and I ordered the hard copy
Really?
of that book. Yep. And apparently I wasn't clear yesterday with my potato theology. I don't want to drag this out.
Go.
But when
Here
I'm
we go.
speaking about God being a potato, I'm speaking about the God of the Bible. Because I normally say it can't be a corn-based chip. That just doesn't work.
Okay, say your thing
the
one
God
more.
of the Bible. No, it's just we're arguing over the way the potato's prepared instead of focusing on the fact that we all believe in the potato, because there's real good and evil out there, and we've got better things to do with our time. Thank you very much.
It's true. I actually really do like your analogy.
Yeah, and it's through Jesus Christ that you get to the Father. That's the God of the Bible. I don't want people thinking that I'm just hippy dippy, although I am a little hippy dippy. On with the show.
That is just a way of endorsing this book, which is Elevator Pitches for God. I publicized it yesterday. I am featured in this book. It's comprised of 71-page or 500-word essays on why people do or maybe don't believe in God, but nevertheless think that God is necessary. And I said yesterday that I don't get any kind of payment from this book, which is completely fine. It's such a joy to be a part of it. But I do want to tell you that the creators of this book, Ron and Bruce, they were visionaries with creating this. They actually funded this book all on their own. And it was a 2-year project. And the book is actually owned by a nonprofit that they set up for the book. So none of the contributors get any kind of royalties from sales. But again, none of us, if I can speak for all 70 of us, which include Alan Dershowitz, Larry Elder, Dennis Prager, the late Senator Joseph Lieberman, Seth Dillon, the CEO of the Babylon Bee, just to name a few. If I can speak for all of us, we're just so honored to be a part of this book and publicize it, because we think that it could be really life-changing and at the very least quite interesting. So please do check it out. And Sean, I'm going to tell them in round 2 of the book to include you. And you're fantastic.
Or perhaps a book called Potato Theories of God.
Yes.
Potato Pitches.
I like simplifying these grand concepts into something bite-sized, quite literally bite-sized. Okay. We have 2 just quick news stories I want to talk about, and then the bulk of the show today. We're going to be discussing this article in the Wall Street Journal that I came across the other day. It's called, I'm holding it up and then I need to flip it over and look at the title. Friendship Can Be a Costly Proposition. So interesting and very, very true. And the article is about how increasing numbers of people, as we know, this is not exactly a secret, are feeling very lonely these days, and how they're going out and spending copious amounts of money to try to ameliorate that loneliness in the form of gym memberships or leagues or professional networking events. And it really is, it's quite a phenomenon. I didn't quite realize just how much.
Was that picture a bunch of Benjamin Franklins?
Yeah, it's actually I think it's a very cool
Can you hold
photo
that
that
up
they
again?
have. Absolutely.
Oh, because I'm watching Franklin on Apple TV at
Are
the
you? Is
moment.
it good?
Michael Douglas plays it. I think it's entertaining. Yeah, I don't know. I'm all Franklined out right now.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, back to how much it costs to play pickleball with your friends.
Yeah, no, but I like this cover because it's all these people sitting around socializing, but then there are these Benjamins on the faces, because it costs a lot of money to socialize. Anyway, that'll be the bulk of the discussion today. But just quickly, as I said, two kind of important news things to discuss. The first is we should be keeping an eye on Iran right now. As we know, a few days ago, the president of the country, Ibrahim Raisi, as well as the foreign minister and several other individuals, died in a helicopter crash. And it's difficult to discern right now how consequential that will be for the country, because the president is just obviously one of a very robust group of incredibly evil and powerful people. But nevertheless, it is important for us to remember that about a year and a half ago, after the death of Mahsa Amini, who was a 22-year-old Kurdish woman who was killed by the morality police in Iran for the grave offense of having some strands of hair poke through her hijab. It was just the most evil and despicable and characteristically Islamic Republic of Iran event. After she was killed by the morality police, there were waves of protests among especially women in Iran against the evil Shiite regime and the barbaric laws discriminating against women and denying basic human rights to all members, or to all citizens, I should say, of the country. And so those protests were happening for a few months, from September of 2022 into the new year, 2023. And I remember in January of 2023 doing a Julie Noted video on how Iran disbanded the morality police. Now, that was, of course, a kind of a more ceremonial thing, or a more sort of, how would I say it? Something that they said that they were doing, whereas they weren't actually disbanding the practices of the morality police. They were still going to go after women for wearing hijabs. But nevertheless, there was some degree of success with the protests in Iran. And so maybe, and perhaps this is just a bit of an optimistic assertion of mine, maybe this event, because having the president and the foreign minister die is not exactly a small thing, will trigger some other uprisings in Iran. And of course, the most glorious thing one can hope for is that there would be a 1979 reversal. There'd be another revolution, but just in the totally opposite direction of what happened in 1979. But of course, that may be too much to hope for. But we should be keeping an eye on what's going on in Iran. Obviously, I'll be keeping an eye and talking to you about it, whatever happens. It's the first main thing to be aware of. Oh, and by the way, Masih Alinejad, who I am so honored to say was my first guest ever on Timeless. She is an Iranian women's rights activist. I've seen her really kind of doing the media circuit right now, talking about how this could be a moment of opportunity for the people of Iran. So let us hope, even if it's a small amount of hope realistically, that will come to fruition. Second big thing, news-wise, is this uncovering by the Daily Wire. I love the Daily Wire. I shouted out the Epic Times yesterday. Fantastic paper. Daily Wire is another one of those, obviously, as we know, just relentlessly fearless truth tellers. Daily Wire did a really important expose yesterday of this healthcare organization called Neighbor Care Health. And they run clinics in Seattle, Washington, elementary and middle school public schools. And they uncovered that starting in January of 2023, this healthcare organization operating these clinics touted that they were offering hormone treatments to children in these Seattle public schools as part of their, quote, gender affirming care initiatives. And so to read an email unearthed by the Daily Wire from the program manager of Neighbor Care Health, quote, the Neighbor Care Health team wanted to share an exciting update to our school-based health center services. Our program will begin offering comprehensive, get a load of this one, evidence-based gender-affirming care services to our students and families who need them. So the reason, I talk about this, so it's interesting because sometimes I try to think about things from the perspective of often I try to think about things from the perspective of the audience, but I try to think about it in terms of audience members who may think that conservatives focusing on gender affirming care is overblown. And then I try to think about it from the perspective of audience members who may sort of say like, okay, we already know this. The reason why it's so important for us to keep bringing up these examples is because there is half of the country who say at least that this is like a fringe thing. We hear that all the time when conservatives, again, bring up the prevalence of this evil. And it is evil to give children hormone treatment when they are at such a young age and have no idea if this is a phase or if this is something that has been inculcated in them. That is truly evil. But we have to, I believe, commit these examples to memory and talk about them relentlessly, because half of the country will say, oh, those conservatives, those fear mongers, all they talk about is the trans issue. Only like 1% of the population is trans. This is very mainstream stuff. This is not a fringe example. This is the main healthcare clinic in Seattle, Washington public schools, touting very publicly that they are giving this kind of treatment to minors. Anybody who gaslights us that is a fringe thing that conservatives need to get over and stop fear-mongering about is missing the whole point. And then on top of that, it's just like unbelievable in its absurdity. The Daily Wire also had another story recently about a summer camp that is operated for the families of the Maryland National Guard. And I'm reading a quote from the Daily Wire here. Quote, a summer camp, Homefront, Challenge Summer Camp, it's called, that exclusively serves the children of Maryland Army National Guardsmen, asked parents if their 6-year-old children were transgender or non-binary. And they were, it sort of raised these questions about how they were going to operate the summer camp. You know that we're in bad territory when the Maryland National Guard's kids summer camp is asking those questions, because I think we would all tend to think of the realm of the Army as being insulated from the kind of gender craziness that is in the, liberal, affluent, coastal parts of the country. But clearly we're seeing just how mainstream that this has gotten, that even things pertaining to the Army are infected by this. So cheerful, right? Very cheerful. But again, it's something that all of us should know. All right, before we go on to the bulk of this discussion about loneliness, let me quickly tell you about MyPillow, or as Dennis says, MyPillow. I use a lot of MyPillow products. I really do. I sleep on a MyPillow. I sleep on the Giza Dream bed sheets. I use my towels, and I wear my slippers, which are my favorite MyPillow products. I wear them almost every day. And you can get these products right now at a massive discount, a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows for just $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. 6-pack towel sets for $25. 4-pack dish towels for, you guessed it, just $25. And for the first time ever, the premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, just $25. Orders over $75 will receive free shipping. Just go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Hartman, or call 1-800-566-6745 today and use the promo code Hartman. Now, interestingly, someone in the chat is writing that the Daily Wire you said the Daily Wire talking heads are getting a little too politically biased. Oh, I thought that person was opining about the Daily Wire reporting, which I don't find to be politically biased at all. The Daily Wire reporting, in my judgment, tells you all the stories that the mainstream media will not tell you. So shout out to them. But let's talk about this Wall Street Journal article. As I said, there's a few days ago, I believe it was on Monday, the Wall Street Journal had this personal journal article, which I think is so important. And also something that Americans of all ages, not just people who are in my age group, I'm in Gen Z, can relate to. And the title is "Friendship Can Be a Costly Proposition." And I just want to read the first paragraph and have a bit of a discussion about it. By the way, the first paragraph of this, we've talked about this before, Sean, on Timeless. A lot of news articles, and this isn't a news articles, they start out with these narratives. Have you ever noticed that? Where like you'll read a New York Times article and it'll be like, Sean McConnell woke up. He looked over at his clock, 4:01. This is the story of many Americans who are increasingly having to get up earlier to catch the bus on their ever, more costly commute to work. More Americans are considering taking the bus. In other words, like, they don't just get to the point of the article. They like pick some person and they tell some personal tale about them. That's like narrative journalism. I don't tend to like that when it's a news story, because I just want to know the news, like just tell me the facts. But I think in an article like this, it's really good. So I'll just read this first paragraph to you. And it's so similar to the example that I just gave. Annabelle Havel spends at least $500 a month maintaining 3 close friendships she made since moving to a new town 2 years ago with her husband and her 2 children. That covers parties, book clubs, and casual wine nights, averaging about $170 a friend. Fortunately, they reciprocate. It's a lot more expensive to have friends than it is to not have friends, says Havel, who is 42 years old and lives in Virginia. This is the main point of the article right here, and then I'll stop reading. It's like I'm a grandma reading to her daughter. Sit here and listen to this article that I'm reading to you. But this is the bulk of it, and I want to cite my source, so I'm reading directly from here. Quote, making and keeping friends takes more money and effort than it used to. People spending less time at offices, schools, and free community groups are now spending money to make friends. That is the point of this whole thing, and what we'll be discussing right now. People are spending so much money just to have a friend. It's really true that the start of that article was so similar to the example that I gave. But as I said, I like it in this form. So this piece goes on to talk about these various examples. So, for instance, the average gym membership right now in the United States costs between $25 and $75. And according to Statista, which is that the right way to say it? Statista? What did I say? Remember I said Ipsos and it was Ipsos?
Yeah,
Ipsos.
Statista or Statista. I don't know.
Let's go with
Is there
Statista.
a right way to say it?
Yeah, Statista. A third of Americans right now who pursue gym memberships or who have gym memberships joined to meet new people. By the way, I look differently at my gym now that I go to. I've gotten really into this workout class that I go to almost every day or a few times a week. And I now, since reading that, go in and look at the people around me differently. I'm like, how many of you joined here to make new friends? But this is a really important thing. A third of Americans right now who have gym memberships are going just to meet a friend. And the article goes on, and they're talking about the monetary component of this. But I think the main important thing is obviously the loneliness. They go on to talk about professional networking events, which costs like $25 a head sometimes. You know, you can go online and find a media networking event or a finance or a, whatever your industry is networking event. And more Americans are paying money to just go to these and meet people. The article talks about people taking, trying to join leagues. This one guy here that they cite spends, I'm reading, $500 a month on glass blowing lessons. Oh, sorry, not just glass blowing lessons, golf, tennis, and YMCA lessons. Okay, that makes me feel better for that guy. Wasn't just $500 on glass blowing, golf, tennis, and YMCA. But, and then, obviously later they give more examples of all of these other things that people are pursuing. But it's a really huge phenomenon, this thing, because we have this financial and sort of economic component where a lot of Americans are struggling more and more financially. And we've talked about this on Timeless, how a record number, according to Vanguard, of Americans are dipping into their 401ks in order to avert a financial disaster. So we already have some economic problems. And then alongside this, we have this loneliness problem. And what I love about this article, even though it's sobering, is that it's showing that these two things are coming together here. And people are spending so much more just to avoid this loneliness. So I just want to talk about, why is it? How did we get here? Where so many people are spending money just to make a friend. And how do we get out of it? Because it's something, to speak personally, that I can relate to. And I don't know if you can, Sean, or people in the chat. I'm seeing someone's already writing in it about this. It's something that I understand. So I've talked about this here before, but I live in Los Angeles. Obviously, we're doing this show right now out of Los Angeles. I moved here 2 years ago when I graduated from college to do this job, this great job. And a lot of my friends from college and from high school live in New York City. And so I came into Los Angeles, and I'm very lucky and grateful to have a fantastic roommate who I live with, who's a friend from high school. But she was one of my only friends here coming to LA who I knew. And it's been difficult a bit to kind of build an infrastructure here, when all of my dear friends who I'm lucky to keep in touch with, and we talk all the time, but all of them are in New York. And so I can really relate to this, to kind of being in a city. You don't have a large social infrastructure here. And I have spent money to try to, meet people and to kind of get out of the house a bit. When I joined the workout class, it was really to work out. It wasn't to necessarily meet friends, but I joined a pickleball league. I'm looking into other classes that I can take. And it really is a phenomenon in American life, especially among the young, but not confined to the young, where we don't have community really as much built in, and part of this, and this is what I hope to talk about today, part of this is like our problem too. Part of this is that we need to take the reins of our lives and go out and find it for ourselves on the one hand, people lament, oh, we don't have community. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, go to church or go do your classes, go find it for yourself. But on the other hand, it is just true sort of more broadly culturally that fewer and fewer people are going to church. Fewer and fewer people are sort of leaving the house and wanting to build an infrastructure. So it's sort of this like self-perpetuating cycle where there's not this collective social buy-in. And so then it makes it harder for you individually to go and buy in. Because I don't want to, for instance, and I'm sure many people can relate to this, sometimes if I go to church, yes, it's great at times to go to church, but as a 24-year-old walking into church and there are just 40 and 50 and 60-year-old people, that's not necessarily the community that I necessarily want to invest my time in because I want to meet people my age. What do you think? I'll pause for a moment. Sean, what do you have to say about this so far?
Well, there's a lot there. Perhaps you should try glass blowing.
Yeah, that hasn't been checked off the list yet.
You and I have talked about this off the air. I think it's natural after college, moving on into your adult life, that there is a drop off.
Yeah, that's very true.
And friendship. That happens to everyone. I have a friend
someone's
from
writing
high
that
school.
in the chat. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
I have a friend from high school that I keep in touch with. I have 2 friends from college that I still keep in touch with. So I think that's normal. I also think there is something to be said for the large city, the big city. It breeds anonymity and doesn't really lend itself.
Yeah, that's interesting.
In a small town, there is still community. Things have moved online. I think the whole COVID lockdown thing exacerbated this whole situation. Online commerce, having things delivered to your house, streaming rather than going to the movies. All these things have been put upon us in the past decade or so that you do everything from home. So I can see why it's a problem, and I think it's probably a bigger problem for extroverts than it is for introverts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
There's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, well, I want to follow up with some of the things that you mentioned. And people are echoing this in the chat. Specifically, I love this comment that the way we live today is totally unnatural. I think that is absolutely true. But, you're talking about, Sean, how there's this drop off when you graduate from college, which is totally, totally true. One of the pieces of advice I would give to people in college who are lucky enough to have the full experience and not have been sent home for a year during, COVID lockdowns. But I would say, meet as many people as possible. Use that as an opportunity because, and I've talked about this with people. I was just talking about a guy who's in his 30s and lives in the UK. He was saying, people don't tell you this when you're in college, that it is such a rare environment for you to be with people who are your age, people who are of, similar sort of place in life to you, who have similar interests to you. If you're in a program in college, or even if whatever major you choose, you're around like-minded people, it really is a unique and rarefied environment. And people aren't told that before they go to college. And so to your point, Sean, people need to realize it and so take advantage of it before it's gone. And, I feel that I did that. Again, I have so many great, wonderful friends from college, but moving to a city where you don't have a lot of friends after college can be difficult and part of this problem. But it's not just confined to people my age. According to a Harvard study in 2020, 61% of adults, this is in my age group, 18 to 25, report feeling serious loneliness, and 39% in the general population report having serious loneliness. So it shows that it is sort of magnified among people in my generation, but it's clearly a much larger thing. In fact, it is such a larger thing. This is really amazing. It seems like it's a Babylon Bee thing, but it's not. Did you know that the United Kingdom Japan and Sweden all have ministers of loneliness. Look at this. This is an article from the UK government. It's a press release from the loneliness minister. And the loneliness minister is Baroness Barron. Isn't that unbelievable? We need to cut to Sean's face. He looks so surprised. Wouldn't you think this is like an Onion article or a Babylon Bee article? Like, these countries have ministers of loneliness. But it's true. Literally, this is a thing. That all across the world and all across different age groups, there is an epidemic of loneliness. By the way, just to have a few laughs about this, obviously loneliness is a very sad and serious thing, and I don't mean to laugh at the pain of this, but that article, the press release from the UK Minister of Loneliness, had these two lines in it that I think are really funny. The first one is, oh God, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but too late. Ready? Quote, "The loneliness minister is urging everyone who may be feeling lonely or isolated to reach out to someone." Well, no bleep, they should reach out to someone. It's like the hungriness minister is urging everyone who may be feeling a bit starved to go have a piece of food. It's like, come on, obviously.
I think I could do this job.
You could do a lot of bureaucratic jobs today are like the easiest ones to do. I love that. Yeah. If you're feeling lonely, reach out to someone. Thank you, loneliness minister. Thank you for that. Really, I didn't know that. I'll read another one. Again, all in the spirit of respect and, deference and all that. I'm not trying to be a mean person here, but okay. Ready? This is the second funny one. TikTok is launching a brand new challenge this week, encouraging creators and users to talk openly about their experiences with loneliness and their favorite ways to help others using the hashtag Let's Talk Loneliness. That one isn't as funny as the first one, but I read this and I'm like, we're encouraging, like, we're trying to get people to be less lonely, but then it's like, go on TikTok, where all you're doing is sitting there like this alone, for perpetuating online loneliness. Yeah, that's a great way to ameliorate loneliness. Get people on their phones alone talking about loneliness. It's like, what? We're missing the whole thing here, people. But again, said with respect to the Minister of Loneliness, because, sorry, I have to laugh. It's so absurd. But they actually do seem to be really trying to do good work. For instance, just some background on this. The British ministry is giving $100 million to address this problem of loneliness. And a lot of it is going to funding charities. And in that press release, I read that they are allocating this money to over 800 charities across England, which are encouraging or hosting events of small people to get together. I think that's great. We need more organizations, having wine nights or having bowling nights and stuff. I don't know how you feel about that, Sean. We know how you feel about the British monarchy, but I want to know what you think about that. It's one of those problems, though, that, like, no matter how much government, I'm anti-government intervention in general, but this is sort of an issue that people themselves right now need to heist themselves out of through hard work. But nevertheless, it seems
I don't
to be
want
a nice
my tax
thing to do.
dollars going to someone's loneliness. All right? Like, please. There are areas of life where we don't need... look, we talked about this a while ago, the paralyzation in society because of politics, because of the woke agenda. People are afraid to share their opinions in public.
That's a huge component. It's a very good point.
Led to this. People not going into the office anymore, being afraid to be a human being in the office. Everything is so sterile, and it's just not life like it used to be. And if you can't deal with your own loneliness, and that's another part of this, I'm thinking, like, people being a victim of their loneliness rather than doing something about it so they can whine into their phone about it. Like this whole situation. Look, if you're lonely, you can go get a dog.
Yeah.
That's one way to solve it. But the best way to do it is to be passionate about some hobbies.
Yeah.
And go pursue those hobbies and meet like-minded people. And please, can we have a separation of politics and life? I'm a big advocate of that, right? We have a separation of church and state. Let's have a separation of politics and life, please.
I love that.
Because we used to have that arena where we could get together and just be human beings instead of having to discuss politics. Oy.
No, it's absolutely true. But what we're doing right now is talking about the causes. And I think that's really important in order to understand how to fix it. I think we have to understand why we got in this situation in the first place. And I'm seeing in the chat, and I know you just said a few minutes ago, something that I think is maybe 80% of this whole issue. It's that the way that we live, as someone is observing right now, is unnatural. Look at what Sean said. We get food delivered to our door. We don't increasingly, well, some people do, but I guess the wealthy like to get the food delivered to their door. Obviously, that's sort of a privileged thing to do. But a lot of people get food deliveries. You don't have to go out and go buy stuff as much anymore. Think about Amazon. My gosh, if you wanted a book, you'd have to go to a bookstore and maybe interact with a human being and get a book. But now you can just get it on your doorstep the next morning. What you said about streaming, absolutely true. You used to go to the movies and maybe meet some people at the movies. And now you're just alone in your apartment or your house watching it on your, Roku. Technology has created so much of this. And the story that I love and I think is so relevant to our malaise now is the Tower of Babel story. This is putting religiosity aside, whether you believe or don't believe in God. This is why I think that the Bible is such an important book, because it's so wise. It's like a manual. I call it a divine life manual, or a divine manual on human nature, because it shows, it provides a roadmap of different situations that can really help us now. And the Tower of Babel story is about how people just started creating this tower for the sake of it because they could. They started just building and building and building and technologically progressing to make a name for themselves. And God saw that that was not a good thing and dispersed them and had them all speak different languages. But people say, oh, well, that story is just a myth about how differences in language came to arise. No, that's missing the entire point. The point of that story is that the wisdom of God is that if you just build for the sake of building, or if you keep technologically progressing for the sake of it, it's not going to be good. And I think that's the moment we're in now, where yes, it's a fantastic convenience to get food delivery or book delivery to your door. It's a great convenience to have something like AI or, all of these, a phone. Just all of the technologies we have in some ways are great, but just because we can have these things doesn't mean that we should. Just because we can get a book delivered to our door doesn't mean we should. And I know what I'm trying to do, as corny as it sounds, is I'm actually trying to not buy books so much anymore on Amazon. I'm trying to go to a bookstore. Or I'm trying to go to the grocery store instead of getting Postmates. Or going to a movie theater. I said on Timeless a few weeks ago, I went and saw Casablanca at a old Hollywood movie theater here in Los Angeles. Just get out of the house and realize that the infrastructure right now of technology is pushing us more towards this loneliness, and be wise enough to identify it and change your life in ways that will literally just get you out seeing a human being, because you never know who you could meet.
Yeah, that's what it's. I said get a dog, not because you should befriend the dog, but if you take the dog out on a walk and you meet the neighbors, how many people know their neighbors?
So true. That's
It's
another
led to
great point.
this paranoia of society and being scared of everything. But if you actually go out and know your neighbors, then you don't feel so lonely.
Yes, I love that. That is so true. Again, a lot of what I'm saying here right now, I want you to know this is stuff that I'm trying to practice myself. It's not something I've mastered. Every single day in my life, I'm on this journey of exploration, trying to get away from, for instance, technology and get more out into real life. What you just said about neighbors, so interesting you bring that up. I've been living in my apartment for a year and a half. I didn't know anyone on my floor. Now that's on me. Yeah, it's on them too. They should know Julie Hartman. They should knock on my door and bang it down and say hi to me. But you know what? It's on all of us. Why don't we know each other? And so on Sunday, I was coming into my apartment building and there was this couple that was leaving walking their dog. Maybe they just got the dog so that they could meet people. And you know what? I stopped them and I said, I'm so sorry. I've seen you guys, enter and exit, and I've never introduced myself to you. I'm Julie Hartman. What's your name? And then we had this really nice conversation. By the way, turns out they're conservative. They're really nice people. And I just thought, why did I spend the past year and a half just, entering and exiting, thinking that that's a couple that's in their 50s. They're not in my age group. I'm not going to be friends with them. I'm just going to, walk into share the elevator with them. They live on my floor, never introduce myself. No, no, no. That's a bad way to live. We got to meet our neighbors. And so you know what I'm planning on doing? I'm planning on literally hopefully they don't think this is creepy. I'm planning on writing a note to some of my neighbors on my floor and just introducing myself and saying, or maybe I was talking with my roommate about this, maybe even having a sort of an office hours thing at our apartment, come over on Tuesday at 6 p.m. for some drinks and some cookies. I don't know. Just trying stuff. But I think knowing your neighbors is a good thing.
There's a certain risk in that. I would be careful.
Inviting some weird people.
And people avoid the uncomfortable. It may be a little uncomfortable at first, but I think if you get out there, you'll realize there's lots of people in the world that aren't so bad.
Yes, that's a great point. It is sort of uncomfortable at first, but one of the biggest reasons I wanted to highlight this article in today's episode is to actually dispel that myth that it's a weird thing to introduce yourself to people. Because in addition to the constraints of technology, I think that social stigma is another big part of it, where we convince, don't be weird, don't introduce yourself to your neighbor. They're going to think you're weird. Or don't talk to the person on the treadmill next to you at your workout class because that's weird. Or this is showing that people are yearning for human connection. May I repeat that according to Statista, or whatever, however you say it, a third of Americans right now who have gym memberships say that they join to meet another person. The stats indicate that people want to connect. So let's get out of our heads and actually connect with people. Because once you take that step, people are so grateful. They really are. I'm sorry to tell you all these stories. I'll shut up about my stories in a minute. But I was at my workout class the other day, and there was this woman next to me on the treadmill, and I just turned to her and I said, our instructor was saying, run at a 9.5 miles per hour. And I was like, oh God, that's so fast and terrible. And I turned to her and I go, oh God, here we go. And then she started talking to me, and then we struck up this conversation. Just turn to someone and make a comment about the shared experience that you're having, or, and she didn't think that I was weird. At least I hope not. She was happy to talk with me, because talking with someone in a workout class is better than just being in your own brain, suffering through the instructor telling you to run at a high pace. So I think that's a good thing. Just a few more things I want to talk about. Social media too. We got to get off of that stuff. you'll be seeing some Dennis and Julie's about this. We've put a lot of Dennis and Julie's. We've filmed a lot of them over the past few days, and one of them is about social media. And I'll show you this. We put this up on Monday. This chart of the average 18-year-old right now in the United States. If the average 18-year-old lives until 90 years old and continues on the path with the same trends that we are seeing now as far as how people allocate their time, they will spend 20 years of their lives on social media. That stat, by the way, is according to Dr. Adam Atler. 20 years of their lives. And so it's part and parcel of this technology conversation, not just with Amazon, not just with streaming, but with social media. We have got to know that this is such a time suck, and we have to take the reins of our own lives and get off of that stuff before it's too late. And then I think another thing that's contributed to this and part of the solution is this whole idea of the loss of the third place. Have you heard of that saying, the loss of the third place?
No.
It's really interesting.
No.
So in American life, the saying goes, it used to be the case that people had a third place. The first place was home. The second place was work. But they had a number 3, which was church, synagogue, mosque, YMCA, Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club. It's amazing. I can't name any more because I don't know of these other alternatives. But Dennis talks all the time about how big the Rotary Club was in American life. I, as a 24-year-old, only learned about the Rotary Club through talking with Dennis. These things have really fallen off. And so Americans increasingly don't have that third place. And you know what I'll add to that whole hypothesis? Most Americans don't even have the second place anymore, work. Because so much is online. Most of my friends work at least 3 days a week from home. And it's really interesting. I've had conversations with these friends where they will say, I like my job, but I'm at a place, and my friends are my age, 24, where they'll say, I'm at a place where even though I like my job, having socialization is so much more important to me. And many of them are considering leaving their jobs because their jobs are online to seek a job where they actually will be in the office 5 times a week, the way that we used to live, because we need social interaction. It is not natural, and it is certainly not healthy for us to be working in our pajamas on a big screen. So we need to resurrect that third place, but I actually think even more we need to resurrect that second place. Who do you think our minister of loneliness would be here in the United States? Who would be a good one?
I volunteer.
Yeah,
I'd be happy
job
to do
ever.
it. I bet it has great benefits.
Yeah.
Is there anything lonelier than the name loneliness minister?
I know.
Baron.
I know.
Like you can't write this stuff. That's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Baroness Baron.
Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this discussion. Yeah, I'm seeing people saying people stop us in the neighborhood and talk to us as if, God, I can't read. People stop in the neighborhood and talk to us as if they know us just because we walk our dog 3 times daily. Boy, this dog thing may be really helpful. It's true.
There's plenty of dogs out there that need a home. Get out of your own head and take care of something else, please.
Yeah, that's it. That's actually a really good hack. But I think the biggest thing is just, I try to approach life with a bit more openness. I try to put my phone away. I try to put myself in situations where I'm leaving the apartment and overcoming the myth that it's a weird thing to just say hi to someone. And the final thing I'll say on this too is the importance, I think, of web work. We right now, and especially people in my generation, we view life very linearly. We think that A has to lead to B and B is to lead to C. And sometimes a good social life or a community life doesn't necessarily work that way. It's sort of I hope this is making sense, but it's sort of more scattered than that. I know people my age who are trying to, maybe get married or meet someone. It's like you're not just going to show up to, I don't know, your soccer league and meet the person there who you're supposed to be with. Maybe it's that easy, but sometimes it's going to your soccer league, making a friend. Your friend invites you to a, thing at their apartment. There you meet someone else. Then you guys one day decide to, go to the beach, and then it's not as linear as people think. Making friends or building a community is very much, I think, a scattered web work kind of process, and I think it takes patience and persistence and open-mindedness. At least that's what I'm trying to practice, my friends. Thank you so much for being with me. Hope you enjoyed this and found it to be helpful. As I said, you can always email me at julie@julie-hartman.com. Love hearing from you and love talking about these very important things in life. Boy, yesterday was Chinese Communist Party propaganda, and today is the loneliness epidemic. You never know what we're going to discuss on Timeless, but I always hope that it's enriching to you. And I'll see you next Monday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Julie Hartman YouTube channel for another live show. But in the meantime, check out Dennis and Julie, which is on Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern. Take care, everyone. See you soon.